It's hard.
We're recording here. Y muy buenos días, buenos días. ¿Cómo están todos? ¿Están bien?
Mm.
Para lunes, for Monday, ¿no? Para lunes,
Mm.
¿sí? Excelente. Bueno, clase, hoy vamos a practicar mucho con verbos reflexivos. Espero que tengamos un poquito de tiempo para hablar un poquito de posesivos al fin, muy al fin. Okay, so right at the very end, I hope to touch on that topic that folks wanted to review of possessives, but we want to spend most of our time on reflexives and see why they're a problem and why they're really, well, and it's one of those topics you kind of have to let yourself go with the flow. You'll see why. I hope today, because I did have a couple of comments of, wow, this is a tough topic for me. So we're going to the one thing you may want to have, if you save it on your computer, the blue questions, you may want to make sure you've got those, whether they are printed out or up on the second part of the screen, or lo que sea, whatever they might be. Pero, primero, first, what we're going to do. Lo primero, the first thing we're going to do is take a look at what these forms are that we're doing, because you kind of need, a preamble, a little preview to get your brain in gear, especially on a Monday, guy. Okay. Here is how reflexive verbs are not hard to learn. They're not hard because the verb conjugates exactly like you think it should. Yeah, if yo is a subject, you conjugate it for yo. If tú is a subject, you conjugate it for tú, etc., etc., etc. So that part is normal. And the other half of it that is different or new, the reflexives, is not real tough to get the grasp of. For a verb that is a reflexive verb, and that means if you look it up in the dictionary, it's got a se tagged onto the end of the AR, or tagged onto the end of the ER, or tagged onto the end of the IR. Okay, for these reflexive verbs, if you look it up in a dictionary, it'll have se, because se is a very generic kind of pronoun. But a yo verb will always get the me pronoun in front of it. A tú verb will always have the te pronoun in front of it. Nosotros verb will always be paired up with a nos in front of the verb. And then third person, if you're talking about one person, somebody else, or a group of people, plural, right? So in other words, we call that third person, singular or plural. They both use se, they both use the same pronoun. So this is how reflexive verbs are different from a regular verb in Spanish, but they're easy to get yourself accustomed to. It's always going to have these little pronouns, and the pronoun always matches up with, agrees with, is in the same form as the verb, okay? Now, why is that important? It's because if somebody, when that pronoun doesn't match up with the verb, then that means that somebody is doing the action to somebody. Okay, an example. A guy says about his girlfriend, ella no me comprende. Ella no me comprende. She does not understand me. Ella comprende. The verb is conjugated for comprende, but the me is not the same form as that. It doesn't, it's not the same form as the conjugation of the verb. The me is a different kind of pronoun, okay? So when you see these pronouns, they talk about who is receiving on the receiving end of the action, okay? So me comprende is not reflexive because she understands me, okay? in a reflexive, the pronoun has to be in the same form as the verb that we're using. So there's agreement. Yeah, there's agreement between those two. So this little file, which I sent to you, kind of steps you through that. So we're doing the baby steps first because it's Monday. My brain does not work well on Mondays. I don't know about you guys. Okay.
That's such a great
Buen ejemplo. A good example, and to see how a reflexive is different, is this verb mover. Mover looks like English move, and by golly, that's what it means. But mover, just as mover, means to move a thing. And, usually, well, it could be anything. You move an item. Yeah. You rearrange your furniture. You move boxes because they're in the way. They got delivered at your door and they're in the way. Okay. Muevo las cajas porque están enfrente de la puerta. I'm moving the boxes because they're in front of the door. And that's not where you want them to be. Okay. So you're moving an item. But moverse means to move a part of your body or your whole body. Yeah. So moverse changes, that's the point of the reflexive, it changes the meaning ever so slightly. But we're going to see how those changes of meaning might be kind of different or indicate something maybe not according to the reflexive definition that people are traditionally given. So moverse would mean you move body part or move your whole body over. Like if you're sitting on a bus and you just, shimmy over to make room for somebody else, that kind of thing. Me muevo. Me muevo. Te mueves. Te agrees with the tú form, right? Se mueve. He's moving over or moving a part of the body. Yeah, see? Because I'm doing it, and who does the action reflect back to? Myself, right? Nos movemos, se mueven. ¿Sí? Bien. So that's kind of the simple illustration. Generally, people are told that, correctly so, that the person doing the action, muevo, also receives the action. That's what that me is about. Yeah. I'm doing this with a part of my body. Okay. And I know a lot of times reflexive is described as doing it to each other, but we're going to watch a little video to get our brains in the mindset of this. That whole thing of to do it to oneself. In English, using oneself, how often do we really do that? Yeah, you don't really say, I wash myself. You don't say, I wash myself that much. I don't say that, I wash my hands, and then you mention the part of the body, right? Or that levantarse, we say get up or stand up, right? Which is, levantarse, get up. Well, yeah, but we'd never say I lift myself up. But that really is the idea in Spanish of you lift oneself, right? Rather than lifting a box, lifting a chair to, move it around. Okay, so, bien. Vale, bueno. Reflexives, often have, and they're taught, reflexives are usually explained for the first time with this idea of daily routines, things you do to yourself. That's why they're explained that way, right? Despertarse, to wake, but that up has to be there in English. So often in English, there's some funny little word tagged onto the end, like up or down. Yeah. Like sentarse is sit down. You sometimes hear people say you can seat yourselves, but that's not the way you generally express that idea most of the time. We say sit down, right? You seat yourselves is something that you'll hear in a restaurant and kind of no place else, maybe a theater, but no place else. Yeah. But that idea of down, unless somebody gives you a command, hey, sit. You look at your dog, hey, sit. Well, okay, that makes sense, right? But usually it's sit. And you got to have the down. Yeah. Wake, you got to have the up. This happens a lot when we're thinking of which verbs are reflexive and which are not. This is the usual question. How do I know a verb is reflexive? Well, you just kind of have to know, which is not very satisfying. But they're explained as these routines, right, that you see on the screen, because it kind of gets you thinking about, okay, we need that little pronoun to say you're doing it to yourself. Bañarse. Usually you don't say, I'm going to bathe myself. I'd like to bathe myself with bubble bath. No, I take a bath. So, okay. Yeah, but they're explained this way. Nobody says, I comb myself. Yeah, that oneself thing is usually not said that way in English. It's kind of understood, but we don't say it. But this is the easiest way for people to get in their heads this whole idea of how a reflexive verb differs from the verb if you take the se away. If I take the se away from acostar, it means to put somebody to bed, which you do with a little kid, right? But generally not an adult. Maquillarse means to put makeup on, as opposed to if somebody works getting actors ready for a camera or TV show, they put makeup on other people. That newscaster does not put makeup on his or her face themselves. Somebody else does that to them. So that's maquillar, right? When somebody does that to somebody else. Bien. Llamar, lo más obvio, the most obvious of these. You call somebody either shouting out or on the phone, por teléfono, but to call oneself, and again, in English, we don't say I call myself. You never say I call myself. I call myself Joe. Me llamo Jose. Well, yeah, but nobody expresses it as I call myself in English, right? Here's another one of those little words like up or down. Ponerse, put on. Put on, okay? You put on clothing. We hardly ever say in English, I put pants on myself. I put on pants, but you need the on, right? You need the on. So when people say, well, oh, reflexive, I don't know what they mean. Well, okay, how do you know when to use on or when to use up or when to use down, right? Or when to use off? Oh my goodness, all these little funny words in English that we need. Well, all those are conveyed by the se in Spanish. Okay. Bien. So that is something to kind of think about when you're getting used to, how do I know if a verb has to be reflexive or not? Okay. So here's something I want you guys to think about. Sometimes you have to think of reflexives as some verbs just are. They're not obvious ones like llamarse or sentarse, where you do it to your whole body, but they're out there. They're great big fat things sitting out there, okay? And they're just reflexive. And you just have to say to yourself, this is the way this verb is used, okay? And it doesn't really, if you translate every reflexive, it won't always mean to do something to oneself, okay? Like, okay, por ejemplo, an example of this, quejarse de means to complain about. It doesn't mean you're complaining about yourself. It just needs to be reflexive. And that's all you should think about. Oh, it's got a se in the end. It needs to be reflexive. And that particular verb to express that idea, it just needs to be that way. Okay. Bien? Vale? Or divertirse, to enjoy yourself. But, usually we say have a good time. That's one of the verbs that means have a good time. Okay? Divertirse. Literally, you divert yourself. But that's in English, if you said it that exact way, it sounds highfalutin and kind of weird. Nobody says it that way. Here's the comerse. We had a question before we started recording. Comer does often it is used reflexively, quite often. But comerse doesn't mean to eat yourself. It doesn't mean to eat yourself. Que ridículo, how ridiculous. Comerse means to gobble something up, to eat it real fast, or to eat the whole thing on the plate. To eat the whole thing. That's comerse. And it's kind of frequent. Okay, so you're going to see that in the blue question verbs. You're going to do that. Yeah. Preguntar is to ask a question, but preguntarse is literally to ask yourself. And we have a special verb for that, to wonder. Gee, I wonder. Me pregunto. I wonder. Yeah. Here's another really, really, really frequent one. Darse cuenta de, to give yourself an account of. Nobody's ever going to say that in English. Que ridículo. So the reflexive there doesn't ever, like the idea of that reflexive verb in English will never be expressed with oneself, myself, yourself. But we've got a verb realize, meaning something dawns on you. Whoa, I got it. I just got it. That's darse cuenta de. Darse cuenta de. And look how many words have to follow, be clumped together to get to say that same idea. Darse, there is the reflexive. Cuenta, just as always cuenta, and de, right? Graduarse, you would never say yourself, graduate yourself. It just is reflexive, right? Jubilarse, to retire. You don't retire yourself. It just, yeah. So sometimes you just have to accept if you hear somebody using it, and you're not going to memorize all of these. Like, I mean, I could give you a list and I would omit something, and I'd, there's so many of them and they just pop up, right? So be prepared for that. If you hear a verb used reflexively, yeah, then go with the flow. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way they generally use that verb. And it may not in your head or really in what it's expressing convey that idea of doing something to oneself. Okay. And a few more examples of those kinds of verbs. You just have to accept that they're reflexive. Equivocarse, to be wrong, to be mistaken. Callarse, literally to quiet yourself, but we say to be quiet or to shut up. Yeah, that shut up thing, yeah. And there's oh yeah, shut up. It's not like shut the door, is it? Yeah. Olvidarse doesn't mean to forget yourself. It's just to forget about something, right? And this is one of the ones you're going to hear all the time. Irse, we hear all the time. It's like an equivalent to salir. And it means take off, get the heck out. Yeah. To go away, not just to go, but go away. Not just take something, but take off. Yeah. So irse is that. take off. One of the best examples of irse, and pardon me because this is well, no, I'll put it in present so that you can recognize it. Somebody said they were sitting in a park someplace in Mexico City, and somebody said, los pájaros, the birds, se van, they're taken off. They're leaving. And just, you can kind of picture a whole flock of birds and up they go in a cloud, right? That's se van, off they go, se van. Meaning they're just getting out of the place. And this thing, morir, I don't know why this is reflexive. You know, it does not mean you're offing yourself. It does not mean you're killing yourself. Although suicidarse, to commit suicide, is reflexive too, come to think of it. But morirse is often used as reflexive. It just is. But there are a whole bunch of reflexive verbs that will do that. And they don't really always fit that pattern of doing something to oneself. I'm going to have you for homework watch this because it kind of illustrates different situations where verbs will be reflexive and how making a verb reflexive often changes the meaning of that verb ever so slightly. And I was going to play this during class, but I think we're going to get this across better if we just use our class for practice. So watch this on your own. You'll get the link for that later on. Okay. Sometimes, and one of the things they're going to talk about in the video is the idea that reflexives sometimes are used in the idea of what we call a reciprocal. And reciprocal means that people are doing something to each other. I'm going to take this off for a minute so that you can understand this. Bien. Okay, so, por ejemplo, let's take a verb that you hear a lot. Conocer, to know a person, right? Conozco a mis vecinos. I know my neighbors. No conozco a ese hombre. I don't know that man. Conozco a muchos estudiantes en esta clase. I know many people in this class. Okay, bien. Conocer is to know a person or to be familiar with a place, meaning you know your way around that place, not just you can point it out on a map. Okay. When we make conocer reflexive, because we can, it means to meet each other for the first time. Okay. And usually you'll hear it in the past, but conocerse becomes what we call a reciprocal, meaning we do it to each other. Okay. Un ejemplo, an example. Mi esposo y yo, and I'm going to put it in the past because that's how I have to say it. Mi esposo y yo nos conocimos en un avión. My husband and I met, and I'm talking about time number 1, on a plane. Mi esposo y yo nos conocimos en un avión. Bien. Okay. So it can mean to meet each other, but it's got to have that first time kind of idea. So, yeah, so reflexives can have many meanings that might not follow that nice pattern of a daily routine that you do to yourself. And you just have to accept, this is one of the reflexives that I need to just accept it for what it is. Bien. Vale. Bueno. Okay. A ver. Al azul. Off to the blue stuff. ¿Hay alguna pregunta? Is there any? Sí.
Just to kind of emphasize the point a little, can you give us maybe another example or two of that reciprocal kind of effect? Like like with conocerse?
You see, parecer is to seem. So, okay, without the se on the end, right? Parecer, to seem. And you know what? I'm going to put this up. Buen ejemplo. Gracias, Marcos. I'm going to put this up on a little screen so you can see how it is different. Parecer, to seem. And you may hear it used with a pronoun, but not with a reflexive pronoun. I'll show you how. But then we also have this verb, parecer. We can take parecer and make it parecerse, which means to look like somebody. Okay. So that is, yeah, to seem like somebody else. Yeah. So, por ejemplo, un ejemplo de parecer. El perrito parece muy feliz. The doggy seems very happy. Okay, obvio. He seems very happy. Oh, un ejemplo con un pronombre. An example with a pronoun, but it's a little bit different. Un día en la playa me parece fantástico. A day at the beach seems great to me. Seems fantastic to me. Me parece. You're saying, I think that's a great idea when you use me parece. See? Me parece bien. Seems good to me. Me parece bien. It seems that way to me. And the me is not in the same form. It does not agree. The me is not the same pronoun that matches up with that conjugation of parecer, right? Something seems this way to me. That is not, even though me can be a reflexive pronoun, that is not a reflexive verb, right? Okay, bien. But parecerse has a very different meaning. Por ejemplo, mi hija se parece a mí. My daughter looks like me. Bien. O, por ejemplo, me parezco, there's the yo form, it gets a Z. Me parezco a mi papá. I look like my dad. So parecerse, to look like somebody, means there's a familial resemblance, or like you just look the same, right? But you look like somebody else. So that's another example of a verb that is just reflexive, but parecer, to seem, it changes in meaning when we make it reflexive. Now, somebody once asked me, can I make any verb at all reflexive? Well, strictly speaking, no, but a lot of verbs can be reflexive. So, just keep that in mind. But no, not all of them, not 100%.
Marilyn,
Sí.
una pregunta. Could you do an example using ayudarse?
Sí. Bueno, pues, sí. Ayudarse. There is another use for, there's another use for se.
Well, the reason I asked was in this one book that I have, it has a section of reciprocal meaning verbs, and ayudarse is one of them.
Okay.
It's saying it's a reflexive one.
Um,
And I can't think of an example.
yeah, it would be kind of like make use of. Make use of, like put something to a specific purpose.
It's not really used a lot.
Well, okay, let me show you how you may hear ayudarse. I'm going to show you how I think you're most likely. This is how I think you're most likely to encounter ayudarse, because se is a super confusing pronoun sometimes. Not the me, not the te, not the nos, but that se word. Here's how you will hear ayudarse. Se ayuda mucho. Somebody points to a tool, let's say, you know, they're doing work out in your backyard and they see that you're using the wrong kind of thing. And they go, no, you need this thing. Se ayuda mucho. It helps a lot. Se used with a verb, but just the se can have yet another meaning that is not reflexive at all. It can have this kind of meaning. The thing you hear on late night commercials. Se habla español. Spanish is spoken. See, you look at a sign, you're walking down the street and you see a sign, se vende. And an item is not selling themselves and a person is not selling themselves. Well, okay, let's not go there. But se vende is seen often as a sign. And that's what it means for sale. This is se is sometimes used with a verb to make it kind of an impersonal or kind of a workaround where we would use a passive voice kind of thing. Spanish is spoken, meaning talking, meaning, oh, okay, actually a great example. Somebody has got a bag full of chips and there's some chip that looked like it got, burnt, something got through the quality process and it got stuck in the bag and sealed up. And it's like a completely burnt up chip. And somebody might say, eso no se come. And literally it means that thing, it's not to be eaten. But of course, you wouldn't say that in English. The idea we would say is, you don't eat that. You don't eat that one. Yeah. So sometimes when you hear say, it's for you don't do something or you do something. Se vende, one sells that, meaning something is for sale. No se come, one does not eat that. You don't eat it, not you personally as the one person, but just anybody in general, that kind of you. See? Or se come con salsa. And the idea there would be you eat it with salsa. You put salsa on it. You don't eat it with nothing on it. Se come, it's eaten. It is eaten with salsa on it. It is eaten, meaning anybody in general eats it with salsa. They don't eat it plain. So se often gets a use like this pretty frequently. So cuidado, careful with those reflexives because they can mean, they're tweaks. They're tweaks. Yeah. And hopefully your blue examples won't have too many tweaks, but we'll take a look at those in a minute, en un minuto. Otra pregunta. Any other question?
Marilyn,
Mm-hmm.
can we go back to Lori's question?
Sí.
Which I guess she asked about the verb that means to help.
Sí.
And so reflexive, it would mean to help ourselves or oneself or
It can mean that. It can mean that something is not useful or is useful.
okay.
Se ayuda mucho. Wow, it helps a lot. Meaning you're talking about like a certain tool or kind of device.
Okay. So, but it wouldn't mean like if you come into someone's house and they say, ayudarse.
Like help yourself to the food?
See.
No.
No. Okay.
Yeah, that would be like, you'd get some puzzled looks. Yeah.
Okay.
That would be more the idea. Mi casa es tu casa, right? Coman, eat. They would just give you that, yeah. Coman de todo, eat anything. Coman de todo, ¿sí? Coman lo que quieran, eat whatever you feel like.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, certain things can't be translated exactly, and that would be one.
Right. So I'm just trying to figure out so another example would be like, God helps those who help themselves. You wouldn't use it there either.
Well, there it could, there it would make some sense. See, there it would. But help yourself like, hey, there's the table, right? And eat whatever you want. They would express it as eat whatever you might want.
Okay.
Coman lo que quieran, eat what you may want. Yeah, and that's a situation where we wouldn't be likely to translate it word for word. And that you just have to get accustomed in each little situation. It's there's no magic wand that will help you with everything. Sadly.
Marilyn,
See.
Marilyn, in the book, I didn't notice this before, but the example it gives is mis amigos se ayudan el uno al otro.
And that's a reciprocal. They help each other. Yeah.
But ayudarse, it's not reciprocal a lot.
Only if you mean help each other.
Okay.
Right? Only if it means it's a collaboration.
Okay.
Yeah. That se ayudan. Okay, es buen ejemplo. That's a good example. Se ayudan. They help each other. And actually, you'll see illustrations of that in the little video I'm going to send you for homework.
Oh, okay. Good.
All right, because they explain that idea of reciprocal. Se ayudan. See? So there are certain situations. Okay, another example. Let's take entender. Let's take another reciprocal. I'm going to add one thing to our screen here. Let's pull up our screen again. Una vez más. Let's take entender. To understand, right? If I use that in a reciprocal sense, if I use that as a reflexive, let me correct myself. If I use that as a reflexive, entenderse could, I guess, mean to understand yourself, but what it's generally going to mean is something a little bit different. So, por ejemplo, no entiendo las matemáticas. I don't understand math is one thing, but el novio mejor. Luisa y su novio no se entienden. They don't understand each other. O algo más práctico, something more practical. El chino y el canadiense no se entienden. The Chinese guy and the Canadian guy don't understand each other because they don't speak each other's language. So you will see reflexive sometimes used like that ayudarse, help each other, that carries with it a reciprocal meaning pretty frequently, right? And there we often do in English insert the each other idea. Understand each other, help each other. That's where we do, in fact, in English, insert the each other idea. Oh, otro ejemplo. Abrazar. To embrace. Or we say often hug, yeah? And abrazarse could mean to hug oneself, but it probably doesn't. Okay. Por ejemplo, el pobre niño, the poor little kid, abraza a su osito de peluche. Osito de peluche is a stuffed bear, a teddy bear, a stuffed animal. El pobre niño abraza a su osito de peluche. He hugs his teddy bear because he's scared or sleepy or looking sad, whatever it might be, right? But, okay, los jóvenes se abrazan means, los jóvenes. Los jóvenes se abrazan has a different meaning. The young people, teenagers probably, or 20-something, the young people. Si es lunes, yep, it's Monday. The young people hug each other because we're less likely in conversation to say they embrace each other, you know, or they hug each other. They wrap their arms around each other, yeah? They hug each other, yeah? So in these examples, we do, in fact, in English, start to use that idea of each other. We do insert those exact words for what we call a reciprocal. Another one, besar, to kiss, yeah? But besarse is to kiss each other. Okay, so la mamá besa a su bebé. The mom kisses her baby, but Luisa y José, ay, a ver, se besan means that those two people, they kiss each other. So you may definitely may hear people use these certain reflexive verbs as reciprocal. And there in English, we definitely insert the each other idea. That's something that is kind of common. Otro ejemplo. Saludar. Saludar is to salute, but we would say to greet. And often you will hear this used as saludarse, reflexive, and it doesn't mean to greet yourself. when it's used as a reciprocal, but it's a reflexive verb, but when it's used this way, it often means to greet each other. Okay. So, sí, el jefe y el empleado, the boss and the employee, el jefe y el empleado se saludan por la mañana. They greet each other in the morning. Se saludan. Okay, it means they say hi to each other. That's what saludarse means. So a lot of these verbs, certain types of verbs in reflexive, used reflexively, can be what we call a reciprocal, things that people do to each other. You need a partner to do it with. Yeah, you need a partner to do it with. Does that make a little more sense? See?
Yeah, so basically, if you have say when it's reciprocal, it's either going to be with the nosotros or the
That's one
it's
thing
gonna
they're
be
gonna,
the
yeah.
plural.
If it's a reciprocal, it won't be a me or a te. It'll be a we do it to each other or a they do it to each other.
Okay.
Sí, los novios se besan. The boyfriend and girlfriend, they're kissing each other. Yeah. Los empleados se saludan. The employees greet each other. It'll usually be in an ellos, ellas, ustedes format or a nosotros format.
Versus with the other example, like se vende, those you're going to see more in the singular forms.
Yeah, and that's
So
just
that's kind of a clue to.
So you'll
Okay.
hear this word say is a pesky kind of word. It's often reflexive, but sometimes it's that reciprocal idea, and sometimes it's that for sale kind of thing, or se habla, Spanish is spoken. So cuidado, watch out. Your examples today don't use any of those curveballs, okay? They don't use any curveballs. So, okay, vale. Otra pregunta, any other question? Because just the nature of what these verbs are can be kind of it is a curveball. Because it has more than one meaning, possibly. And you need to know that from the context of the whole sentence. See? Bien. Are we ready for some breakout room work? See? See? Vale. Bueno, okay. Adelante. Okay, so here are your questions. ¿Quién no se sienta mucho cuando trabaja? What kind of person doesn't sit down much at their work? Okay. ¿Dónde te sientas en un restaurante? Where do you sit yourself down at a restaurant? See, al aire libre, en un patio, o adentro, right? Are you seated outdoor? Do you sit down outdoors? Do you sit down inside? What kind of space do you like when you go into a restaurant situation? Cuando te duchas, ducharse is just that one you never hear used without the reflexive. I can't even give you an example with the non-reflexive. I don't know what it would be. Like sticking your kid in the shower, maybe. Yeah, that kind of thing. But nah, that doesn't happen so often, right? Okay. ¿Cómo se llama tu restaurante favorito? What's your favorite restaurant's name? What's the name of your favorite restaurant? And the restaurant doesn't call itself anything. Yeah. What's the name of that restaurant? So you're going to see those. I just want you to work that group of 4. Como 5 minutos. I think 5 minutes for a warm up. ¿Sí? ¿Verdad? Bien. Let's see. Bueno, muy bien. Okay, and you'll see the questions I want you to work on once you hit your join buttons. Oh, perdón. Let go. Sí. Bien, okay. Oh, I think I need to move Lori into a different group. Dos. 2. Ok. Ok, vale, good. She got into the other group. Aquí vamos. Ok. Y tengo que poner mi cronómetro. I need to put my stopwatch on. Uy. ¿Dónde está mi cronómetro? Aquí. Vale, como 5 minutos. Bum, 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 bum. Sí, cronómetro. Ok, aquí vamos. Esos son fáciles. These are kind of easy ones. So I think 5 minutes is going to be enough. 5 minutos son suficientes. 5 minutos son suficientes para practicar las primeras preguntas. ¿Quién no se sienta mucho? Who doesn't sit down much? Un bombero no se sienta mucho. A fireman doesn't sit down much in his work. Well, unless he's waiting for the fire. Ok, sí, bien. Pero cuando trabaja, when he really works at stuff, sí. ¿Quién no se sienta mucho? Una enfermera, a nurse. Una enfermera no se sienta mucho. ¿Qué más? Un jardinero, a gardener, un jardinero no se sienta mucho. Bien, ¿qué más? Un obrero en la calle, a worker who works like on street construction, sí, un obrero con la construcción de la calle no se sienta mucho. ¿Eh? Un dependiente en una tienda no se sienta mucho. A clerk in a store doesn't really sit down very much. Bien. Depende, pero un doctor no se sienta mucho. Un doctor que trabaja en el hospital, por ejemplo, no se sienta mucho. Ok. Hay muchas profesiones donde la persona no se sienta mucho. ¿Dónde te sientas en un restaurante? De verdad, prefiero sentarme al aire libre en un patio. Por lo general, me siento muchas veces al aire libre o en un patio. En el verano, aquí en Arizona, no. En el verano me siento adentro. En el verano me siento adentro. I sit inside in the summertime, ¿sí? Porque hace muchísimo calor. Bien, ¿cuándo te duchas? Depende. Me ducho después de hacer ejercicio. A veces me ducho por la mañana, ¿sí? Cuando hago ejercicio por la mañana, entonces inmediatamente me ducho. Pero de vez en cuando me ducho por la noche antes de acostarme, before going to bed, a veces, ¿sí? Y, ¿cómo se llama tu restaurante favorito? Esto es difícil. Mi restaurante favorito, de verdad, es mi restaurante favorito. Es un restaurante que no está en Arizona, está en Moab, Utah. Y mi restaurante favorito se llama Moab Brewery. Es un restaurante con muchas cervezas artesanales. Es es un restaurante con muchos botanos muy deliciosas, botanas deliciosas, delicious snacks. Es buen restaurante. ¿Y por qué está el restaurante en Utah? Pues porque ya está, because that's it. Sí, es un lugar donde pasábamos muchas vacaciones en Moab, muchas vacaciones de montar en bicicleta, muchas vacaciones de caminar en las montañas y así. Ok, a ver, let's close our breakout rooms. I'm going to send a little message so people have a warning. And we'll give people a minute to tie up their loose end ideas. Ok, a ver. Treinta segundos. Everybody's got about 30 seconds to come back on in. Bien, bien, bien. Was that enough time?
No,
¿Suficiente? No? No, okay.
no.
Vale, gracias.
Couple minutes
Un poquito
more.
más, a little more time.
It might have
Sí.
been if I hadn't been asking irrelevant questions.
Pues.
Well,
Okay,
we
a
only
ver.
ask relevant questions, but still need more time.
Okay, bien, bien.
And we want to talk to, when we're done with this, about the difference between solo y solamente.
Oh, okay.
Solamente.
Sí. Only and only. How helpful is that? Okay. ¿Alguna pregunta? Any question on those four or any example that was specifically great that you want to talk about? Sí o no?
Well, I had one question.
Mhm.
And I realize this is the way you phrased the question, numero, number 14.
Sí, sí.
¿Cómo se llama tu restaurante favorito? Would you ever really say it that way, or would you just say my favorite restaurant is?
Oh, sí, se puede. Yes, you can. And people will flip around back and forth, but yeah, between that. Yeah, sí.
So if you're trying to use it with llamarse, would it be say that mi restaurante favorito se llama whatever?
Exacto. Sí.
Okay.
O, por ejemplo, mi película favorita se llama Citizen Kane o lo que sea, ¿sí? Bien. Yeah, and can you just flip out and use es? Sure you can. Sí, claro. Cindy.
I have a question. We didn't quite get to this one, but the one about what you do when there's a lot of sun, what do you put on?
We're getting to that later.
Oh,
I just
that's
wanted
not
those
the-
four.
Oh,
Oh, that's why. Yeah, that I
Okay.
just wanted those that you could see on that part of the screen. See.
okay,
Okay,
okay.
good, good. Then
Okay,
we almost
so
had enough
actually
time,
you're
but
going to be
the
working on this, and Cindy, ask me your question now because that's going to be one of the next items there.
Okay, so when you are talking about it making a lot of sun or there is a lot of sun, can you say hace mucho sol or hay mucho sol?
Los
Oh.
dos. You can use both there.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Weather expressions are kind of, they will tend to use only certain kinds of verbs. Weather expressions tend to use either hace or hay or está most of the time. Okay. Those are like the three most frequent verbs to talk about the weather. Hace, hay, or está. And there it kind of depends a little bit on which whether you're using a noun or an adjective, that kind of thing. Bien? Vale. Okay.
Marilyn, when
Sí.
we get to the next group here,
Sí.
could you please be sure to put through the questions that we can see them?
Oh, sí. Did you not see them?
No.
Oh,
No.
it told me it was sharing, but it was not. Okay, perdón. Sorry about that. Okay. Pueden ver las frases ahora. You can see them now, ¿sí?
See.
Yeah, I hit the button, but okay, it didn't go out. Lo siento. Sorry about that. Okay. Vamos a ver. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's look at just 4 of these. Okay, I'm going to highlight them here. I just want you to work with these 4. See? ¿Qué te pones cuando hace mucho sol? And the hace mucho sol is always going to stay hace mucho sol when it's sunny. Yeah. ¿Qué te pones? What do you put on? And that might mean a lotion type thing that you put on, or clothing, or something over your eyes or your head, lo que sea, whatever it might be. Okay. Te quitas los zapatos cuando llegas a la puerta. Do you take off your shoes when you get to the door? Some people are very strict about no shoes inside the house. Yeah, that's what that question is about. Te quitas los zapatos. And quitarse means to take something off of your body. And ponerse is put something on your body or on yourself, on your skin. ¿Sí? ¿Dónde te diviertes? O ¿con quién te diviertes? Perdón, I need an I in there. Con diviertes. Bien. Where do you have a good time, or with whom do you have a good time? Enjoy yourself, okay? En tu familia, ¿quién se viste rápidamente? In your family, who gets ready quickly? ¿Quién se viste lentamente? Who gets dressed slowly? Se viste is get dressed, but often we might say in English, get ready. See, get dressed. ¿Quién se viste rápidamente? ¿Quién se viste lentamente? Who gets dressed fast? Who gets dressed super, super slow? That person who hogs the bathroom and just never gets out. Okay, ¿vale? Bien. Okay, we're going to make sure for sure that send button works this time. Even though I was sure it worked the last time. A ver. Yeah. Sí, a ver. Okay. Let's try this again. Ahorita, now, I'm pretty sure it worked. See, la pobre Cindy. I think Cindy thought she had to get through all of these questions in that 5-minute segment, and that's why she felt it was too short. But I will give people a little bit longer than 5 minutes this time. Un poquito más. Y nos quedan como 2 minutos o 3 minutos más. Okay. Voy a escribir un mensaje al grupo. A ver. And we'll give people 1 more minute to tie up loose ends. I'm going to take these questions off the screen now. Dale bien. Okay.
It
And
was my
just,
fault again.
and okay, just looking at those examples. Bien. ¿Hay alguna pregunta? Any kind of question you have or a good example that you had off of practicing with those?
We had a question in our group, and on number 16,
Sí, sí.
whether you could say either way in this case, me quito or quitarme.
Quitarme.
Ah, me quito, nos quitamos.
No,
Nos
no,
quitamos.
no, no.
Me quito, I take off, right?
Sí.
Or could you also say it could you also say it putting the
Quitarme.
pronoun at the end of and say it as quitarme?
Ah, can I use quitarme? Ah, me quito los zapatos. I take off my shoes. Here's how you can use quitarme. Voy a quitarme los zapatos. Voy a quitarme.
Take off.
I'm going to take off. Quiero quitar. Ay, mis,
So you,
mis pies me duelen. My feet really hurt. Quiero quitarme los zapatos. When I use two verbs together, these reflexives can get tagged on to the second verb, which means the infinitive kind of verb.
so you can't do it the other way if you only have one verb. Quitarme. You can't do quitarme los zapatos. No?
Sí, Danita, me quito. If I just have the one verb, right?
Oh,
If I
okay.
just have the one verb by itself, then it has to be in front of that verb by itself.
Oh,
But
okay.
if I say I want to take off, or I'm going to take off, or I need to take off, my feet are killing me. I need to take off these shoes. Necesito quitarme.
Oh,
So
okay.
voy a quitarme. Bien. But I have a choice. When I use those two verbs, I can say it as voy a quitarme, or I can say me voy a quitar. I have two places that me can go, and I'm correct either way. When you use two verbs together, a verb plus an infinitive, a not conjugated verb, right? I have a choice of where I can put that me verb. And either way is correct. And what's more common? It's whatever the person feels like. Yeah, one is not necessarily more common than the other, right? For English speakers, they like tagging it on because that's how the word order works in English. I'm going to take off, my own shoes. That people like to do it because it's kind of more akin, more like the English word order, but either way may happen. See, but if I got a verb by its lonesome self, just the reflexive verb, then for just talking about what is happening or what you usually do, that verb must be in front of the,
Okay.
or the pronoun must be in front of the verb. Make sense? See?
Sí.
Bien, bien, bien.
Bien.
Okay, vale. Otra pregunta. Any other question? ¿Sí o no? No? See? No? Okay. Vale. Let's do these last two together. And then I want to devote just a teeny tiny intro with this whole possessive thing. Yeah. Hablando de un grupo de niños pequeños, talking about a group of little kids. I'm talking about a bunch of little rugrats. See? Hablando de un grupo de niños pequeños. ¿Qué tipo de comida se come rápidamente? Se come means they eat it up, they eat it all up. Comerse, it means you're cleaning that plate. You're just about licking it clean. Okay? That's what comerse will mean. ¿Qué tipo de comida se comen rápidamente?
I'll go.
Okay, Larry.
Pero no tengo hijos.
Okay, vale.
Nunca. No, no hijos. Se comen Cheerios y galletas de Goldfish.
Sí, galletitas de Goldfish. Esa marca muy popular, sí. Goldfish, sí. Eso sí. ¿Qué más?
Los niños se comen papas fritas.
Se comen papas fritas rápidamente. Sí, exacto. Muy bien, muy bien. A veces se comen los dulces candy, a veces sí, rápidamente, depende, sí. Ah, topopos, chips, ¿sí? Topopos, sí, siempre se comen muy rápidamente. Una historia un poquito divertida, kind of a funny story. Una vez, mi hija fue a la casa de una amiga. Ella tenía como 4 o 5 años. She was like 4, 5 años, ¿sí? Y ella fue a la casa, va a la casa de una amiga y la mamá en la casa le sirve, she served them, le sirve como ¿qué fue? Cheetos. La mamá le sirve Cheetos a las niñas. Y mi hija se come de todo, se come de todo. Es una niña muy delgada, muy delgada, ¿sí? Y ella le dijo a la mamá, she said to the mom, mi mamá no me permite comer Doritos en casa nunca, porque la mamá le preguntó, the mom asked her, ¿por qué se come tan rápidamente los Doritos? Porque mi mamá no me permite comer Doritos en casa. And I look like the bad mom. Okay. Bien. Okay. Comerse. Boom, 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 boom. Double it up. Stuff your face. Stuff your face is comerse. Okay. ¿Y dónde que te callas? Where are you typically very quiet? Típicamente, ¿dónde te callas? Sí, Lori.
Me callo en la biblioteca. Hoy en día, mucha gente no se calla en la biblioteca.
Eso
No
es.
me gusta.
Sí, estoy de acuerdo. I agree. Sí, eso. Tienes toda la razón. You are totally right. Sí, pero generalmente se calla o me callo en una biblioteca, pero hay otros que no se callan en la biblioteca. Bueno, ¿qué más? ¿Dónde que te callas? ¿Dónde te callas? Marco, sí.
Me callo en la sala de espera. Espera
Espera.
en la doctor.
Ah, sí, sí. Bien. Bueno, es lógico, sí. Bueno, ¿qué más? Cindy, ¿tienes otra idea?
Sí, me callo en la iglesia.
En la iglesia es muy común callarse, sí. Es común, sí. Me callo en una iglesia. Bien, sí. Debemos callarnos, we should be quiet. Debemos callarnos en el cine,
Yo,
pero sí, Cindy,
yo tengo una pregunta.
sí, dime.
You don't have to use, if you use me callo, está.
No. You can take that word callar and turn it into a description. Callado, like quiet. Está muy callado. That person is very quiet.
Callado.
Estar callado would mean to be very, and even in a place, like the street is very quiet right now. Okay, bien, you could, but you generally for a person is very quiet. See, callado. I'm going to write down the word. Callado here is changing that word callar into a description of quiet description. See?
So,
Ella
so
está muy
whenever
callada.
it's a description, would it depend, like would it be callado or callada?
Sí, yeah, when it's a description, it'd be callado or callada. It could be a feminine form, sí. Es una calle muy callada. It's a very quiet street. Es un barrio muy callado. It's a very quiet neighborhood. Sí, bien. So yeah, you will see little words like callar, a verb, oftentimes with this ADO, it's a special kind of suffix. That will be a suffix that turns that verb callar into a description type word, not an action, but a description of what that person or thing is like. That person is quiet, silent, yeah, not making any noise. That's what the word callado means. Bien?
One more question about
Sí.
that, because
Sí,
the
dime.
ADO, isn't that also like the ED ending for AR verbs?
It can be at times. It
Okay.
can be if I use it together with another helping auxiliary verb.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'll show you. I don't expect you to be able to use this because it's kind of a longer topic, but me he callado. I was quiet in this place. I was quiet. I shut myself up. I made myself quiet, literally. And that makes it into kind of a past. But I have to do that, Lori, I have to pair this which is a helping verb. And that's the have
Okay.
part. And it's not the have of own, like tener. It's the have like compound tense, have, right? Like we have eaten, we have seen that. Yeah, we have not spoken in years, that kind of have. It has to work with another verb to have any meaning, yeah? I can't just
And-
use that a by itself. It won't mean anything. I have to pair it up with a second verb that tells you what the action is. And then it puts it into kind of recent past or the have you ever kind of past. Yeah. And that's used more in Spain, less so in Latin America. Well, yeah. Or I should say super frequently in Spain, but not as maybe common, not as everyday kind of usage as in Latin America. Okay. Vale. Bien. I want to do a little introduction. Quiero presentar un tema. I want to present something which is going to be a review, and this probably won't take too long, but I'm going to give you some material that will help you kind of figure this out. This whole thing of possessives, because this was a special request to talk about possessives. And in particular, maybe we may need more time with these. Possessives are, again, pronouns, but they serve a different kind of purpose. And they're actually kind of an adjective type pronoun. They talk about a thing. Yeah. Possessives tell you who owns something. All right. And there are actually even two different kinds of forms that two kinds of forms that possessives might take in Spanish. We'll talk a little more about that next week. But the most common ones are these. Now, possessives are a little bit different in Spanish. Most of them, but not all, but most of them only go to singular or plural. So you don't have to think about masculine, feminine. Yay. The only thing you have to think about is onesie or twosie. Yeah. Okay. So my is either me or mis. Obvio, right? Your, if you're talking to a friend, somebody you know well, is either tú or tus, right? And this tus is going to mean that the thing you have is more than one, like tus perros, you've got more than one dog. So this word tus or mis looks not at the person who owns, but at the thing that is owned. Okay? Mis lentes, lentes plural, lentes, or gafas, depending on the country you're in, right? Gafas or lentes. Mis lentes. It's plural because this word lentes is plural. Okay? So the plural form of this ownership word looks at the object that is owned, right? Not at the person who owns it. Here's the one that starts to get confusing, even though it has no gender, even though it's only singular or plural, 1Z or a 2Z, this su or sus. And why does it start to get confusing? Because su or sus can mean lots of different things. It's used to mean either his belongs to him, her belongs to her, belongs to a female, right? There, it belongs to a group of people, yeah? Or your formal, whether it's usted or ustedes. Either one of those you words, usted or ustedes, if something belongs to you personally, the formal you, or you guys, it'll use that word su or sus. Why is this confusing? Number one, because it has so many different meanings. His, her, their, your, right? And number two reason it's confusing is that, again, this word looks at the object that is owned. So if Maria, right? If Maria has a closet full of dresses, even though Maria is only one person, sus vestidos is her dresses. Sus looks at the word vestidos to get its plural form. Okay. Even though the word her talks about only one person in English, that word sus vestidos looks at the word vestidos, says, "Ooh, I've got to go into a plural form, sus vestidos." Yeah. Now, sus vestidos could mean her dresses. It could mean their dresses, like you got a group of gals getting ready for a dance concert or something like that, right? So, in other words, interpreting what the word su or sus means, it looks at the item that is owned, and that's what gives it the singular or plural. But knowing if that word means his, her, your, or their, you got to know the context of the whole sentence. So a sentence taken totally out of context will give you no clue as to what that word su or sus is going to mean. All right. And there's where it gets a little bit confusing. Can be a little bit confusing. Bien. Otros ejemplos, some other examples here. So here's how you know which you use. Mi camisa, my shirt, mi amigo, my friend. Those are onesie kind of things. Amigo is only one friend, right? Camisa is only one shirt. Mis sandalias, my sandals. Mis zapatos, my shoes, as opposed to his shoes or your shoes, if they're confusing, right? Okay. Okay. Tu idea, your idea, it's only one thing, so it's tu, right? Tu padre, your dad, it's only one dad, so tu padre. Tus hermanas, that word tus looks at the word hermanas, more than one sister, right? Tus pantalones, your pants as opposed to his pants or, their pants, right? You're taking something off a pile and you want to know who it belongs to. Su escuela might mean his school, might mean her school, might mean their school, their school. We think there, a bunch of people, but that their word has to be singular because we look at the thing that is owned, escuela. So su escuela can also mean their school. It can also mean your school if we're talking in the usted or ustedes mode. Yeah. Su profe, his teacher, her teacher, your teacher, their teacher. It can mean any of those things, right? So when does su become sus? When the thing that is owned is more than one. Sus clases, sus, plural, looks at that word clases. But sus can mean his classes, her classes, their classes, your classes, for either usted or ustedes, right? Sus problemas looks at the word problemas to give it the form sus with an S on the end. It can mean his problems. It could mean her problems. It could mean their problems. It could mean your problems for either usted or ustedes. Okay. So that su and sus is what we often get hung up on. Yeah. Here's the only possessive that goes into a gender form. So this one kind of steps out. It does follow the rules in that I need a singular or a plural, and I look at the item that is owned to figure that out. Yeah, a singular or plural. But also, it's got to have a gendered form. And this is the our word. And by the way, the plural, your word, vuestro with a V, con V chica with a V, but only used in Spain, does this same thing, but we're not going to practice it because in Latin America, they don't use that word. So nuestro, nuestros, nuestra, nuestras. Okay. And because that general possessive word ends in an o, nuestro, it has to obey that gender rule. So, you know, mi doesn't end in an o. Tu doesn't end in an o. Su doesn't end in an o. So they don't get any gender. But that word that ends in o, nuestro, that gets gender. Okay. So again, the form of our. So which one of these words you use, nuestro, nuestros, nuestra, nuestras, depends on the object that is owned. Bien?
Sí,
Lógico. Okay,
if
linda.
someone had told me that, I mean, if I had realized that a few months ago, it would have made my life a lot, because that's where I was getting hung up, is I kept thinking, oh, well, there's no gender, there's just number, and I couldn't figure out what the different words meant. So now that
Okay.
makes sense.
So this cleared it up for you? Okay.
Gracias. Mucho, 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 mucho.
Okay. Then we probably don't need a ton of practice. I find one website for you guys to
Good
do on.
practice.
See? So, por ejemplo, nuestro hijo, our son, but there's only one kid that we're talking about. So it's nuestro hijo, right? Nuestros hijos, our children, meaning just all of them. And they're probably guys and girls mixed in that group of hijos, right? But because hijos is more than one, nuestros hijos, our kids, yeah, our children. Nuestra familia, our family. Familia is just one, but it's a feminine word, familia, so it's nuestra familia. And ideas, ideas is a feminine word and it's a plural word, so it has to become nuestras ideas, our ideas. This makes sense for you, Linda, now? Mejor? Better?
Yes, so so much, but I can't even say it in Spanish. I'm just
Okay.
so happy.
Más, está bien claro. It's really clear now?
Sí, muy claro. No sé. Well, okay. I don't know why I thought that that our couldn't have a different rule than me.
Ah.
I don't know why I couldn't just get past the fact that it has a different rule.
The way to think about the our word, nuestro, is that it ends in an o, and therefore it's going to obey that thing of, oh, it's a gender-driven word. Yeah?
I don't know why I just didn't think that applied.
Yeah.
in this case, but this just has really cleared it up, and now I'll be more confident when I practice.
Yeah, there you go. And I've got I think one or maybe two little websites, and I'll send it to you so that you can just practice a little, and it'll give you feedback right away about whether your answers are right or wrong. And I think that's probably all we need to do with that. And see, bien, is that correct? You think? See, that's probably all we need to do with that, or more, Linda.
Everyone else looks bored, so maybe I'm the only one that had trouble.
Well, no, these little words can sometimes be a hitch. Yeah. So it's a good thing to see why they are kind of different from each other. And I'll give you one little exercise. And the rest of you, if you don't want to do that practice on the link, just, you know, if you say, no, I totally get this, that's fine. Just skip it for the week. Sí, bien? ¿Todo bien? Vale,
Sí.
bien. Okay. We're going to have one reflexive that we will work on in class to open next week. It's going to be kind of a special reflexive with a special meaning. And you're going to get a fun listening comprehension video just to listen for the big ideas and just get the main gist of that. ¿Sí? ¿Bien? ¿Todo bien? ¿All good?
Bien.
Todo bien. Excelente, muy bien, muy bien. Entonces, sí, es todo. Sí, uy, son las 11:09. We're a little bit past our time. So, okay, espero que ustedes tengan muy, muy buena semana. I hope you all have a really good week. Sí, sí, y hace sol. Por fin hace sol, finally. Por fin hace sol, después de una semana entera de lluvia que necesitamos, ¿sí? Y nos vemos, sí, el lunes. See you guys on Monday.
Sí.
Bien.
Bien,
Excelente, sí, cuídense.